So imagine you pay, $50,000 for this custom delivery platform. You launch it. You've got 100 drivers on the road. Marketing is just firing on all cylinders, and you are scaling fast.
Yeah, living the dream.
Exactly. But then you wake up on a Tuesday morning, and your entire network is just dead.
Oh, man.
Yeah, the apps won't load. Drivers can't see their orders, and restaurants are calling you in an absolute panic.
A nightmare.
Total nightmare.
Yeah.
And the crazy part is, you didn't get hacked.
Right.
Your servers didn't crash. Your vendor just, they simply flipped a switch and turned your business off.
Yeah.
Because you unknowingly violated some, subclause on page 42 of their licensing agreement.
It's wild, but it happens far more often than anyone in the tech space really likes to admit.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the industry is incredibly skilled at selling this this absolute best-case scenario.
Right, the glossy pitch.
Exactly. These frictionless, perfectly polished, turnkey ecosystems that make you feel like you're, the next Uber Eats. But the gap between what you think you are buying and the actual legal reality of what you control, it is massive.
And that is exactly what we are tearing into for today's deep dive.
Yes.
We've pulled together this really fascinating stack of research, all detailing the hidden realities of buying self-hosted delivery apps. So our mission today is to essentially build a bulletproof BS detector for software purchasing.
I love that.
Yeah, because whether you're an entrepreneur gearing up to launch a logistics platform or you just want to understand the intricate traps hidden inside these modern software ecosystems, we are moving way past the demo day.
Right. We have to.
Yeah. We're getting into the architectural realities, the hidden costs that just bleed companies dry, and the physical limitations of code in the real world.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. Okay, let's unpack this.
So I think the first trap you fall into is almost always semantic.
Okay, semantic how?
Well, the vendor's pricing page, right?
Yeah.
It's designed to blur the lines between completely different legal and technical frameworks.
Oh, right. Like the buzzwords.
Exactly. The terms like white label, self-hosted, and source code ownership, they get thrown around on these sites as if they're just interchangeable features on a checklist.
Right.
But they are not. And if you don't parse the difference before you start, you are basically negotiating blind.
Yeah, let's frame this up because the terminology manipulation here is fascinating.
It really is.
White label is probably the worst offender. Right.
Oh, by far.
Because it sounds like you are getting this proprietary system. But really, from what the research shows, white labeling is just a paint job.
That's a perfect way to put it.
It's like buying a house.
Right.
Or, thinking you're buying a house. White label just means you get to paint the front door whatever color you want.
Right. Maybe hang your own family nameplate on the porch.
Exactly. From the street, it looks like your house. But in reality, you might still just be renting a unit in a massive SaaS apartment complex.
Yes.
You don't own the property. You can't, knock down a wall, and the landlord can just double your rent next year.
That is a brilliant analogy. With a white label SaaS product, you are just paying a recurring subscription.
Right.
The vendor hosts all the infrastructure. You don't own a single line of the underlying code.
Wow.
Yeah. The end user sees your logo, sure, but structurally, you have zero leverage.
Which naturally drives a lot of buyers toward that next tier, right? The self-hosted tier.
Exactly. They want out of the apartment.
Right. If white label SaaS is renting the apartment, self-hosted feels like owning the lot.
Right.
You install the software on your own AWS or Google Cloud infrastructure. But I actually have to push back on the prevailing logic here, based on the source material.
Okay, let's hear.
If the software is physically sitting on my private server cluster, right, like behind my firewalls,
Right.
how on earth can a vendor shut me down or dictate what I do with it? Like, it's on my machine.
What's fascinating here is the deliberate split between technical control and legal ownership.
Okay.
So yes, you have the files on your physical server.
Right.
That gives you technical control over the hosting environment. But the software itself is often deployed as compiled code.
Compiled meaning. Cool.
Or it's obfuscated through encryption tools, like IonCube is a big one.
Oh, okay. So it's locked up.
Exactly. You can't read it. You certainly can't modify it. And furthermore, it is actually programmed to phone home.
Phone home. Like ET.
Like ET, yeah. It requires a digital handshake with the vendor's license server, usually every 24 hours.
Wow.
So legally, you didn't buy the software, you just bought a highly restrictive license to execute their code on your machine.
Okay, so the second that handshake fails,
Yeah.
or the second they decide, your license is revoked for whatever reason, the software on your own server just bricks itself.
Instantly. It's just dead weight.
That is terrifying.
It is. You can host it yourself and still be completely at the mercy of the vendor. To extend your house analogy, it's like self-hosting means the house is on your land, but the vendor changed all the locks.
Right.
They hold the only key, and they put a demolition charge in the basement that they can trigger remotely.
Jeez. That puts it in perspective.
Right. So the only way you actually own the house is if you demand true source code ownership.
Which means what exactly?
That means you hold the architectural blueprints, you receive the raw, unencrypted code base,
Okay.
and you have the explicit legal right to modify it, strip out those license checkers, and build on top of it without asking the vendor for permission.
Okay. That distinction changes everything about how you evaluate these contracts.
Completely.
But, okay, even if you secure the Holy Grail, right? Full source code ownership.
Right.
That brings us to the financial reality of this whole thing.
Oh, yes. The money.
Vendors heavily market this one-time payment model.
We love that phrase.
They really do. They say, pay 50 grand up front, own it forever, no recurring SaaS fees, which is an incredibly seductive pitch to a startup that's trying to model out their runway.
It is seductive, and it is a complete myth.
A myth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the costs don't disappear just because the vendor isn't billing you for them anymore.
Right.
The responsibility for the total cost of ownership, the TCO, it just shifts entirely onto your shoulders.
Oh, I see.
Buyers see no monthly fees, and they just completely stop doing the math for what it actually takes to keep a complex logistics platform alive for, say, 12 to 24 months.
Okay, but let's play devil's advocate for a second here.
Sure.
Cloud infrastructure is cheaper than it has ever been, right?
Sure.
Storage costs fractions of a penny. I can spin up an AWS instance for like a few bucks a month.
Yep.
So surely the infrastructure costs of self-hosting are basically negligible compared to paying a vendor some massive monthly SaaS fee, right?
But if you're running a static website, absolutely.
Okay.
But we are talking about live delivery logistics.
Right, moving parts.
Exactly. The compute power required to calculate dynamic routing, process concurrent transactions, and manage live WebSockets for thousands of moving drivers.
Yeah.
That is intensely resource-heavy. Your server costs don't scale linearly. They scale exponentially as your network density increases.
Oh, wow.
But honestly, compute power isn't even the hidden killer here.
It's not.
No. The real financial bleed comes from third-party mapping APIs.
Ah, right. Because every time a user opens the app to, watch their burrito travel down the street, the software is pinging Google Maps or Mapbox.
Precisely. Let's break down the math on this because it's wild.
Let's do it.
Live location tracking means the driver's app is sending GPS coordinates to the server every 3 to 5 seconds.
Every 3 seconds, okay.
The customer's app is constantly querying that server and overlaying it on a dynamic map.
Right.
You're making API calls for geocoding, reverse geocoding, distance matrices, and turn-by-turn navigation.
That sounds like a lot of calls.
It is, and every single one of those API calls costs a fraction of a cent.
It's literally like a taxi meter running in the background of your code.
A taxi meter that ticks hundreds of times per delivery.
Wow.
Multiply that by thousands of orders across a month.
Oh, man.
We have seen startups completely wipe out their profit margins solely because they didn't accurately forecast their Mapbox API consumption.
Just on the map.
Just on the map. And that's just one subscription.
Right.
You still have to pay for SMS gateways like Twilio for driver notifications.
Right, the texts that say your driver's arriving.
Exactly. Plus your payment gateway fees, SSL certificates, content delivery networks, and annual developer fees for Apple and Google just to keep the apps listed in the stores.
So you're basically trading one vendor's SaaS fee for a dozen smaller, highly volatile infrastructure subscriptions.
Exactly.
But here's where it gets really interesting based on the research.
Okay.
The lifetime updates trap.
Oh, this one is classic.
Right, it's a classic sales closer. You pay the one-time fee, and they promise lifetime updates. But when you actually dig into the licensing models of these platforms, lifetime is a highly manipulated term.
It is entirely subjective.
How so?
Well, what they usually mean is the lifetime of that specific version branch.
Oh, like version 4 versus version 5.
Exactly. They might give you bug fixes for version 4 for, say, 6 to 12 months.
Right.
But the moment they release version 5, which usually happens to contain the new compatibility patches for the latest iOS release, they declare version 4 at its end of life.
And so if you want version 5,
If you want version 5, you have to buy a completely new license.
So it's essentially forced obsolescence.
Basically, yeah.
And if you refuse to upgrade, let's say a company is like, we'd like version 4 works fine, we're not paying another 50 grand for the new one.
Right.
What happens when those security updates just stop?
You are basically driving a car with failing brakes.
Really?
Yeah. In the software world, new vulnerabilities are discovered in open source libraries every single day. If your vendor isn't patching those libraries in your app, and you don't have an in-house cybersecurity team actively monitoring and patching your code base,
Then what?
your system is fully exposed, which really forces us to look at the darkest side of self-hosting,
Which is?
the sheer weight of security and legal compliance.
Right, because if the software's on your servers, the legal liability is completely on your shoulders.
Exactly.
It's no longer the vendor's problem if a breach happens.
No, it's not. Let's look at payment processing, for example.
Okay.
If your app handles credit card data natively, meaning the card numbers actually pass through your database before hitting the processor, you are subject to PCI DSS compliance.
That's the payment card industry stuff.
Right, and that is an agonizingly strict set of international data security standards.
So what does that actually mean for the business owner?
It means you are required to maintain hardened server firewalls, encrypt all data at rest, and run continuous vulnerability scans.
That sounds expensive.
Very. And if you fail an audit, or worse, if card data is actually stolen from your server, the fines can bankrupt a mid-sized company overnight.
And that is just the financial data.
Right.
Because you're also hoarding incredibly sensitive physical data.
Right, yeah. Gate codes, home addresses, phone numbers, delivery instructions.
Right. And if you are operating in Europe, you have to deal with GDPR.
Yep.
In California, it's the CCPA.
Exactly. You are legally mandated to protect that data.
Right.
You have to provide mechanisms for users to delete it permanently and report breaches within incredibly tight, legally enforced windows.
Man.
The appeal of total control sounds fantastic in a boardroom strategy meeting, right?
Oh, yeah. We own our data. We control our destiny.
Exactly. But total control means you are the one getting the frantic 3 a.m. phone call when an outdated API endpoint gets exploited by a ransomware bot.
Right. Which actually brings up a terrifying hypothetical from the source text.
Okay.
What happens when the vendor just disappears? Right. Let's say you bought a self-hosted license, but the vendor goes bankrupt. Or they get acquired by like a private equity firm that instantly sunsets the product.
Yep, happens all the time.
If your business runs on their software and they vanish, are you just collateral damage?
If you didn't structure your contract correctly, yes.
Seriously.
Yes, your business dies with theirs.
Yeah.
This is why you must demand source code escrow if you can't get direct source code ownership up front.
Okay, wait. How does the escrow work in this context?
So an independent legal third party holds the unencrypted raw source code.
Okay.
And the contract stipulates that if the vendor fails to meet their support obligations or goes bankrupt or experiences a major change of control,
Yeah.
the escrow agent automatically releases that raw code directly to you.
Oh, wow.
It is your ultimate insurance policy. If we connect this to the bigger picture, we are really talking about true digital sovereignty versus just the illusion of it.
Digital sovereignty.
Right. True digital sovereignty means your business can survive indefinitely, even if every vendor you relied on ceases to exist tomorrow.
That is a phenomenal benchmark. True digital sovereignty.
Exactly.
All right, so let's assume a buyer successfully navigates this whole legal minefield.
Okay, they survive the contracts.
Right. They secured the escrow, they budgeted for the API taxi meter, and their servers are locked down tight.
Good for them.
Now, they have to actually deploy the app to the public. And this
Oh.
is where the theoretical code slams into the physical limitations of the real world.
This deployment phase is where you find out if you actually bought a scalable logistics engine or if you just bought a really expensive prototype.
Right. And the first major roadblock isn't even the delivery drivers, is it?
No, it's not.
It's the App Store reviewers, Apple and Google.
Oh, yes.
You take your customized white-labeled delivery app, you submit it to the iOS App Store, and it gets immediately rejected.
Yep.
Why? Like, what are the algorithms actually looking for?
They're looking for binary clones?
Binary clones.
Yeah. Apple's guidelines, specifically Guideline 4.3, which is concerning spam, they are incredibly strict about template apps.
Okay.
Apple uses automated static analysis. They look at the abstract syntax tree and the underlying binary architecture of the code you submit.
Wait, they look at the actual code structure?
Yes. If your vendor has sold the exact same code base to 300 other delivery startups, your app shares an identical architecture with 300 other apps already sitting in the store.
Even if the logo is different and you change the primary colors.
Yes. To the algorithm, it is the exact same app.
Wow.
They view this as polluting the App Store ecosystem, so they just flag it as spam and reject it.
So what do you do?
Overcoming this requires sophisticated changes to the code base and the asset libraries to make your binary unique enough to actually pass the inspection.
And if you don't have developers?
If you don't have developers on staff, you are entirely reliant on your vendor to fight this battle for you.
Man.
And frankly, fighting with App Store review boards is exhausting, unpredictable work.
So you could literally have your drivers hired, your marketing budget completely spent, and your entire launch is just frozen indefinitely by an automated Apple algorithm.
Exactly. It happens.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
But okay, let's say you clear that hurdle.
All right, you're live.
The app is live. Now we hit the actual physics of delivery.
The fun part.
Right. Because sales demos always feature the happy path.
Of course.
You know, a customer adds a burger to their cart, clicks buy, a driver instantly accepts it, and the little car icon just glides smoothly across the map.
A perfect world.
Right. But reality is a disaster path.
Yes, it is. The physical world is messy, it's chaotic, and it's completely indifferent to your clean UI design.
Exactly. So how does the underlying architecture handle the edge cases?
Right.
Like what if a customer orders 3 items, but the restaurant only has 2 in stock? So the ticket requires a dynamic partial refund while the driver is already en route.
Good question.
Or what happens when a driver accepts an order, drives into a concrete parking garage, and just loses cellular data for 10 minutes?
See, this is where you see the difference between basic e-commerce software and actual logistics software.
What do you mean?
Well, building a shopping cart checkout, that's a solved problem in tech.
Right.
Anybody can build a front end that takes a credit card. But dynamic routing is a complex mathematical nightmare.
Right, sure.
It is basically a variation of the traveling salesperson problem, and it's constantly recalculating based on real-time variables.
Because it's not just mapping point A to point B.
No, not at all. It is mapping point A to point B, while factoring in that driver C is currently at point D.
Right.
But they have a batched order that needs to be dropped off at point E first.
Oh, man.
And the prep time at the second restaurant was just delayed by 12 minutes because the kitchen got backed up?
It's just cascading variables.
Exactly. The system has to recalculate the ETAs, dynamically adjust the driver's commission based on the new wait time and distance, and update the customer's live tracking.
Wow.
All in milliseconds.
That's intense.
If the software's database architecture isn't fully optimized for highly concurrent read and write operations, the entire system just bottlenecks and crashes the second you hit a Friday night dinner rush.
Which means during that initial demo phase with the vendor, you cannot just test the happy path.
No, never.
You have to demand they show you how the dashboard handles a cascading system failure.
Yes.
Like, show me the workflow when a driver's car breaks down halfway through a batch delivery.
Right.
Because if the software requires, 3 different manual overrides from a dispatcher just to fix that one issue, it is utterly useless at scale.
Precisely. You aren't just buying an app, you are buying an operational nervous system.
Yeah.
It has to handle pain and injury instinctively.
Man, we have covered massive ground here today.
We really have.
We've untangled the legal manipulation of licensing, mapped out those hidden API costs, confronted the terrifying reality of legal compliance, and exposed the gauntlet of App Store algorithms and dynamic routing math.
It's a heavy list.
It is.
Yeah.
So what does this all actually mean?
Right.
How does a listener synthesize this into a tactical strategy when they finally sit down across from the software sales rep?
It really comes down to honest self-assessment regarding your technical debt.
Okay.
The research breaks down 4 dominant models of delivery software, and your choice should be dictated by your internal engineering capabilities, not the upfront price tag.
Okay, walk us through the technical reality of each model really quickly.
Sure. The first is hosted SaaS.
Right.
You pay a monthly fee, you get an out-of-the-box solution, and you touch zero code.
Okay.
This is strictly for operators who have 0 technical staff and just want to validate a local delivery concept really quickly.
What's the trade-off?
The trade-off is you have no equity in the tech and absolutely no control over the product roadmap.
Right, you're renting the apartment.
Exactly.
Next is the self-hosted license.
Here, you pay a medium upfront cost and you manage the servers yourself.
Okay.
You gain data control, but you are still legally bound to the vendor's update cycle and their licensing terms.
Right.
This requires a systems administrator to manage the cloud infrastructure, even if you aren't actually writing new code.
Okay, third is open source.
With open source, the initial software cost is zero, and you have absolute source code ownership.
Sounds great.
It does, but the technical debt is immense.
Wow.
You need a dedicated, highly skilled engineering team to build on top of that raw foundation, manage all the security patches, and maintain the infrastructure.
So it's only for tech-first companies.
Exactly.
And finally, the custom build,
Right.
which is where you hire an agency or an internal team to code the platform from absolute scratch.
Maximum upfront cost, maximum ownership.
Right. But this is really only viable for heavily funded startups whose core competitive advantage is a totally unique logistics algorithm that just doesn't exist on the market.
Exactly. You match your business model to your technical reality.
Right.
And once you do that, you can deploy the ultimate pressure test for the vendor.
The 5 questions.
Yes.
This is where we turn the tables on the glossy sales pitch.
Because this raises an important question, right? How do you bypass the sales rhetoric and get binding answers?
Right.
You ask these 5 highly specific questions, and you just watch how the vendor reacts.
Okay.
A legitimate company will have ready, documented answers. A predatory vendor, they will try to redirect you back to the feature list.
Okay, give us the tactical breakdown. What are we asking?
Question 1. Do I receive the unencrypted, editable source code, and what are the exact legal restrictions on modification and resale?
Okay, that's direct.
Very. This forces them to admit if you are getting true ownership or just a glorified rental agreement.
Good one.
Question 2. What are the projected third-party infrastructure and API costs at my specific projected volume?
Ah, the taxi meter.
Exactly. Demand they map out the map box and server costs for 10,000 orders a month, not just the 50 orders they show on their little starter tier.
Right. Okay, question 3. This is the one about legal liability now. Right?
Yes. Question 3. In the event of a catastrophic data breach on my self-hosted instance, who carries the legal liability? And what is your documented vulnerability patching schedule?
Wow.
Because the boilerplate contracts always indemnify the vendor.
Right.
Force them to explain how they will support you when a zero-day exploit actually hits.
That's a tough one. Okay, question 4 goes back to the lifetime myth.
Yep. Question 4. Exactly what happens to security patches and version upgrades after the initial support period ends?
Get it in writing.
Get the renewal costs and the end-of-life policy for the current version in writing.
Okay. And the last one.
Finally, question 5. Can you connect me directly with a client who has been operating your software at my target scale for a minimum of 12 months?
Ooh, that is the ultimate lie detector.
It really is.
Because anyone can be thrilled for the first 30 days.
Exactly.
You want to talk to the operator who has survived a year of paying those AWS bills, fighting the Apple App Store reviewers, and dealing with Friday night server crashes. I mean, that conversation alone is worth more than 50 demos.
Absolutely. The vendor's website testimonials are just curated marketing.
Right.
A raw, unfiltered conversation with an operator who is 12 months deep into the technical debt will tell you absolutely everything you need to know about system stability and customer support.
This has been an absolute masterclass in seeing the matrix.
It's eye-opening for sure.
We started by looking past the dazzle of a frictionless demo. We learned to translate the manipulative semantics of vendor licensing. We mapped out the true total cost of ownership hiding in the API taxi meters, and we confronted the mathematical realities of logistics in the real world. Ultimately, we realized that demanding total control means accepting massive, unyielding responsibility.
It fundamentally changes how you view a software purchase. You aren't just buying a product. You are entering a complex, high-stakes operational marriage.
It really is. And, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought based entirely on the massive technical burdens we've discussed today.
It is something deeply worth mulling over. Yeah. If the burden of self-hosting truly requires managing PCI DSS compliance, updating server firewalls against zero-day exploits, and integrating complex NP hard routing APIs.
Right.
Are we approaching a future where local restaurants and small delivery startups will be entirely priced out of owning their technology?
Wow.
I mean, as data privacy and cybersecurity laws become exponentially stricter, might those massive SaaS monopolies become the only legally and technically viable option for non-technical business owners,
That is
making true self-hosted sovereign software a luxury that only massive corporations can actually afford to maintain.
That is a chilling but incredibly realistic possibility to consider.
Yeah,
It really forces you to look at the entire software landscape and the consolidation of power within it in a completely different light.
absolutely.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We encourage you to bring this critical eye and those 5 essential questions to whatever software ecosystem you interact with next. Keep questioning the demo, and we will catch you next time.